What up, everybody? Welcome to the Dad's Corner. I want to apologize for the delay in getting out some new episodes. We've had the holidays at Christmas, New Year's, so it has been hard to get things together and just been spending time with family. Kids are out of school. My wife's out of school. She's not in school. She works at school. And so we have been a family of four and have literally spent every single waking moment together for the last 2 weeks, and it's been amazing. I haven't been upset about it at all. I actually truly do love my family, and they've been great. But it's just when you have the kids every second of the day, I see why being a stay-at-home parent can be difficult. But exciting today. Got my boy Slade back on. Just we're chatting on the phone earlier and was like, let's get back into it. Let's get back on the podcast and talk about New Year's resolutions and just some things we're trying to get done in the new year, things we've gotten accomplished over the last year. So welcome back, Slade.
Hey, man.
I noticed the deer heads in the back, and you were just telling me about dipping. And so I've seen it. I've always seen them doing it, like especially with hard hats and things like that. And I never knew what it was. But you said it's just simply spray paint and water.
And yeah, man. These back here, first of all, let me just tell you about the setup. We can come right back to where we are right now in just a second. But the first time we had this, I shot this same view, but you couldn't see all this stuff in the back. It kind of looks like I'm in a, what we call them, a fishing outhouse.
Yeah, like whenever you go ice fishing, you're in one of the ice fishing houses. Except you couldn't be farther away from ice fishing at the
West Memphis, Arkansas, in a carport closet converted to a stay-at-home, or excuse me, work from home office, remote. But also, I change things every day, and I'm sorry if it looks like I am in a deer stand, like you said, because it kind of does. It kind of looks like I'm in an attic or basement, definitely in a closet. And what you see in the back is my first shot at dipping, and I looked that up yesterday on YouTube. One episode,
is that your
one
deer?
show. Yeah, man. This
you
one,
shot that deer?
I did. I killed both of them, actually.
Gosh, from here those look like monsters.
Because they are. That's what they are. And that's why they look
they're
like
close.
that.
They almost touch, and then you would have just it would be like a some kind of decoration that you can actually set stuff on, like a phone, if you ever needed to.
Yeah, if I ever needed to do something like that, I could do it, and maybe I might make a table, or a chandelier. But see, what I did was I've had these deer, this Euro mount, and I've had them for a little while, but Euro mounts don't really look good in my house. It doesn't really have that style.
So do you think that, or does your wife think that?
It hasn't really just came out, but I'm going to lean towards, you know what, I'll claim this one. I don't think it looks very good in the house.
Really?
I mean, I don't want to blame my wife on here publicly going out, like that, but, it doesn't match anything. Yeah,
he's blaming his wife.
Yeah, well, so I didn't know what to do with them. They're just sitting around being dead. So I decided to get into dipping, and that's what I did. I filled up a jug of water, a tub of water, like a Tupperware you buy from Walmart or something, and they're about 2 foot long, like the skull is, and about wide in height. So I tried to get a big enough one that I could dip the whole skull in at once, and filled it up with water. Like, I got some random colors like bright pink, yellow, orange, bright green, black, white, spray paint. And then you spray the top with one color. You just hold it down until you get tired of how much paint you got in there. And then you spray the other one directly in the center, and it kind of makes this tie-dye look. And you just keep on going back and forth, alternating whatever colors or however you want to do it.
How do they do patterns? How do they, like the American flag pattern?
Oh, that part is for experienced, advanced. I'm in the beginner's rookie stage.
I got you.
I dipped those like 5 times in random colors. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and it did. You dip them in there real slowly, and then you pull it out, and whatever pattern is on top of the water, that's what pattern sticks to whatever it is you're dipping. So the paint just sits on the top of the water on the surface, and you slowly dip it in, then you pull it out, and then it's just there. It's pretty cool.
I've seen them to where they like dip them in, and then I guess before they bring them back up, they kind of like shake
Yeah,
the water. I guess so that you just bring it back up through water. Because
yeah,
if you bring it back up, will it put another?
yeah, it will. So if you want to double coat, or I guess if you want to go for another pattern as you're bringing it up, you can leave the swirls or whatever the design is alone. But if not, when you dip it in, it's completely submerged. Just scrape the water off the top, and it just turns to clear water. All that spray paint that was sitting there just moves to the side, and you pull it up and let it dry for like
What
24
does it?
hours.
What does it stick with? Like what makes it?
Whatever paint uses to stick to things. I mean, I don't know
So is
what you.
that your professional? Is that your
Yeah,
professional statement? Whatever
yes,
paint uses to stick with
yeah.
on there.
Hey man,
Well,
I'm
because I
okay if
see
you leave
them
that.
and
You know,
it's
whatever.
like they do like a hard, like I said, a hard hat, or they'll do. I've seen guys do like boots or do. I guess anything. It looks
Anything.
like it's been spray
You
painted.
could
I mean,
maybe you could put primer on it. I didn't, but maybe you prime the walls before you paint them. But I didn't do that. But maybe that's that adhesive word you're looking for. I don't have a clue. I didn't do that, and it still worked.
yeah, I can see. Yeah, because I don't. The one on the right that I'm seeing on the right.
This right
No,
or
that
this
one.
right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So, but the other one, I can tell it's got some lime green and
But yeah,
some
and I
yellow
wasn't.
stuff on it.
Some people might. And what do you think about that? Because some
I
people,
personally hate it,
okay, I
but
mean, not so
no.
much the color scheme. I'm saying, like the fact that I painted a deer antler or skull. I've seen people do the skulls. I ain't never seen nobody mess with the actual antlers. And some people are like, "Oh, and I can't believe you did that. That's sacred." But
So I'll be honest, I don't like it personally. Like just for me, if I was doing one, I think it'd be really cool to have the skull done. Like if you wrapped the antlers to where they didn't get dipped in, because it's going to be
hmm
hard for you to get the whole skull in there without the antlers. But if you got a big enough deer, just the skull of it itself, it would be pretty cool if you could do something like either with a football team or with any kind of sports or any kind of pattern that you like. That's why I've seen the ones, but I didn't know that. That's why I didn't know it was with spray paint, because I've seen them where they take
hmm
like a sheet of something and they set it on that water
yeah,
and it
I don't.
just stays right there. And then when they dip it, it's like, oh, you've got this patriotic theme, or you've got this skull theme, or they've got all these
Yeah,
certain patterns.
I don't have a clue how they do
I
that.
want you to figure out how to do that
Okay, sure,
and just start doing it.
sure. I'll just, you know what? I'll create a company. And it'll
LLCs are super easy. I mean, anybody, we can do one right now.
sure. We can
We'll
do
call it. We'll call it
something about
dipping with
skinny
Slade.
dip. Skinny dip.
Skinny
Some
dip with Slade.
man, I don't know. Kind of sounds like a bad rapper name.
Yeah,
Skinny
little
dip
dip.
with Slade. Well, anyways, let's go away from this topic.
I've got to. It's a crazy day with the farm animals around here. So I don't remember where we were at the last time with you with the animals, but
Can I let
had
you know?
the goats had their babies yet? No, they
Yeah,
couldn't have. This was like
yeah, yeah, yeah. They hadn't by the time they had the babies in between. But then last time you and I spoke on the phone,
was
Larry was
yeah.
acting up.
So I'm gonna tell the Larry story to catch everybody else up, but just because I have never been consistently more mad at an animal, and I didn't even know. I had no idea male goats acted like this. I mean,
Terrors
don't get me wrong. Like all male animals, when it's in heat or there's any kind of birthing stuff, they get
in a rut.
literally in the rut. So we have 4 females, 2 males, and not to give you like a whole family tree, but the 2 males, 2 of their moms are part of the females. There's a little bit of a worry there that you have to watch out with incest, because you don't want. I mean, goat. You don't want to have a goat coming out with a horn growing out its forehead or its butt or anything like that.
Maybe.
I don't know if that would really happen, but so we get them, like all 4 girls get pregnant, and the way the males are following them around, it looks like Larry got the other mom pregnant and then the other male's sister pregnant. So we're like, all
Mm,
right, they're over there. And then Rex got Larry's mom pregnant and then the other female who is in no relation to anybody. So they're good. I mean, every once in a while they'll kind of butt heads, but it's like once or twice a week, and it's just funny. It's not like it's ever out of anger. Well, then the very first daughter, very first one, she has a baby. And I'm getting ready to record a podcast with a buddy, and all of a sudden I hear just this commotion. I go outside, and our Great Pyrenees has this baby goat in its mouth. And I'm thinking, holy crap, like she's going to kill it. What's going on? So I'm yelling. I'm like freaking out. Finally get that calmed down. Well, that's when I started noticing the males were just headbutting each other. I'm talking working each other over. And so we get through, and like later on that night, one more has her babies. She just had one as well. Well, Larry and Rex are fighting so much that they're like knocking the girls over, trampling on the babies. Like you could feel the stress in our backyard. When I walked outside, it was almost like when you go, like, you know how you feel on Sunday when you got to go to work on Monday? That's what our backyard felt like. It felt like Sunday, Monday. And so I go out there and I'm like, man, I can't have this. Another mom, she spits out twins. Jeez. And then the second mom, we lose her baby. Like, it doesn't make it through the night. One of the ones that had twins, hers doesn't make it. Like 2 days later, it passes. And I'm like, I think there's too much stress in the backyard. Like, there's a lot of anxiety back there. And so then this fourth one, she hasn't had her babies yet. And I'm like, she's probably holding them in. Like, she probably doesn't want to have them yet. And so I make me 2 8-foot, 8x8 sections. And I'm like, the males are going to go in there till they calm down. And just to put a point across, I got them pink buckets to drink out of. Because I was like, I'm sick and tired of y'all being just over emasculated. I'm going to put you in there and I'm going to make you drink out of pink buckets till you calm down. Yeah. Little pencils are hanging out the whole time. I'm like, chill out. Because here's the problem is once
inappropriate.
Once the females had their babies, though, the males were like following them around, like bumping into them, almost like they do when they're trying to mate and like trying to hump them. And I'm like, I don't know about goats, but like women need 6 weeks, and all of us guys, we know about that 6 weeks, and you got to chill out, and you got to can't. And y'all are like 3 days later, y'all got to give them a second. So I put them in their own pens. It kind of stops at the fourth one. She has her twins. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. It's so great. Well, I get out there one day and I look, and Larry is not in his pen. And it's just a normal, it's like a 5-foot pen, right? Just 5-foot fencing. He gets out. I'm like, all right, I go find him. And it's not easy to herd them back into their pens. So I go out there and I'm like, all right, there he is. So I'm in my freaking boots and I'm in shorts. It's a little chilly, and because I thought it was going to be pretty quick, and it wasn't. I chased this goat around for an hour and a half. I ran back and forth for an hour and a half trying to get this goat back in that pen.
Where was your Great Pyrenees in this moment?
They were laying in the middle of the yard because they're not herding dogs. They're protectors. They're like, this ain't us.
You didn't get the right breed. That's kind of on you.
I need like a collie, like a border collie.
Yeah, you should have thought about that.
So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to get him back in his pen, and I finally get him kind of cornered, and then he'll run through these bushes and this trees, like kind of in our yard. And I'm getting cut up by briars. I'm sweating. It's cold outside, but I'm sweating and I'm hot.
You're about to get pneumonia.
Steam's coming off my body, and it's not only steam from the heat, it's steam from the anger.
Mad.
So I finally get him back in. And keep in mind, every time he gets out, I got to open this makeshift fence with these bungee cords and straps and hooks, and just to open it up to get him back in there. So I finally get him back cornered, and I get over there by him, and he's like looking at me, and he starts peeing, which I'm thinking is a sign that he's threatening me.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so you think I'm not the one. And I'm thinking to myself, I'll pee right now to show him that I'm not the one. I'll do it back to you. But then I thought, my neighbors, they're probably not going to appreciate walking out back, and they're like, why is Jason over at his house peeing on a goat? So I get the goat back in, I get Larry back in, I get it all closed back off. Like, you should see how I got this thing rigged up right now. And I make it back inside of the house. I look in the backyard, and he's standing in the backyard by the other goats. And I thought, how did
What's the time frame? What's the time frame difference? Like
7 minutes.
Wow.
7, like however long it took me to get calmed down and walk inside, he was in the backyard. So I go back out there. I get him back in. I see where he's getting out. He's nudging his head out. I'm like, okay, that's where he's getting out. So I close it off. I look around. Keep in mind, Rex is in the exact same pen, and he ain't getting out at all.
Well, Rex is chill, sounds like.
Yeah. But Rex is getting madder and madder because every time Larry gets out, he goes and humps his mom and sister.
Yeah.
Rex's mom and sister. So
That
he
is
got a little
so
bit of a
disrespectful.
disrespect right in his face.
Man.
So I get him back in, fix that spot. I'm like, all right, he can't get out. A couple days go by. Larry stays in. They're raising hell. They're mad. They're upset. A lot of testosterone going. But I'm like, whatever. And so then I look over one day and Larry's in the backyard again. And I'm thinking, how did he get out? He must have torn the fence down. Because if you go out there, there's been some points where they're full speed hitting the side of that fence. They're trying to knock the fence over. So I was like, he must have knocked it over. I go out there, not knocked over. Still standing. There's no bulged spots. There's no bent.
Mm-hmm.
I go over there, finally get him back in. I've spent probably 7.5, 8 hours chasing this goat over the past few weeks. I get him back in. I get him back in, and while I'm tightening the gate, he jumps it. He jumps the fence.
Like Free Willy jumped that rock levee?
Like he put his first two hoofs on, just pushed, gone, over. And I'm like, holy cow. So I go over there, and I get these tomato cages. That are like probably 4 foot tall. I put them in the fence. So now the fence is like 8 foot, almost 9 foot tall.
Reinforced.
But I ain't got enough to go all the way around. So I do what I think is going to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I get him all in. Keep in mind, to get him in, I got to unhook 15 hooks and straps and all that. I get him back in, get all that back done, and I look over, and I was almost back inside when he got out. So I go get some more fencing, and now it looks like I've never been to Rikers Island, like the prison.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it looks like, right? Like it looks kind of like that. Yeah. And so I get him in there, and he spends like a week. Like this is this last week. He's still in there, been good. Me and Kobe were outside playing basketball, and I hear a big commotion and look over, and he's standing over there. And it's almost like he gets out and then looks at me like, you gonna let me out this time? And so I said, forget it. I said, I'm done. I just let him go, but he's just so rough with the females. So I was like, I'm not gonna keep doing this. So I let him go. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to let Rex out. It's not fair. Slade, within 45 seconds, they were fighting, knocked one of the moms over and were fighting on top of her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I finally get them both back in their pens, get everything tightened up. I was this close to getting an electric fence to where anytime they got close to the fence, it zapped them. Yeah. They're going to the cell barn today. They are gone. They're done.
So Rex, he's getting reprimanded for Larry.
He's getting reprimanded because he's the same way. As soon as he got out, the first thing he did was start trying to pin females down.
Yeah, you thought fighting. So the females, they free range goat?
They are. And here's kind of the disappointment. I'm disappointed in my females a little bit. Because while they're both pinned up and I'm like giving the females a break and like, y'all relax and go do your thing, they keep dragging their butts up and down the fence.
Like literally.
Like I'm not like literally. Like Rex's mom and sister, while he's right here in this pen, they go to this pen and they say like drag up and down, which has got Larry going nuts. Like Larry's, he's trying to knock the fence down. He's like, I'm trying to he wanting a conjugal visit, but I don't know how to give them a conjugal visit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's been rough, dude.
Man, what about just like getting some goldfish? Why you got to get goat? I mean, really though, what are the goats doing for you?
Just kind of mowing the yard.
Oh, okay. So they do serve a purpose. All right.
Well, it was supposed to be like let's get some goats. This will be fun. And they got dropped off and 2 of them were pregnant. And then they had, both of them had twins and they both survived. Like there was no issues last year. 2 sets of twins. And it was when it was snowing. 2 sets of twins. Everything was good. No issues whatsoever. So this year I was like, the only thing that's different is the male goats. The male goats being there. That's the one thing that's being just.
Man, I see a pattern ridiculous here. If you think about the last episode that we did, you were talking about this rooster. This rooster, he's kind of aggressive. 2 of them. 2 or 3. Yeah, see? 2 roosters.
There's 3 of them, and 2 of them are bad. But see, you got to think, chickens are pretty defenseless, and they're pretty stupid.
Okay.
But I got them 2 roosters, so roosters are hard to catch. And so Colin wanted to go with me yesterday because I'm gonna process them today. Like when I get off from here, I'm gonna go get the water going. Like they're already in their own pens right now, getting kind of ready.
They're like, they don't even know they're ready to die.
They don't. When you say things like that, it makes it sadder. But we'll talk about doves if you want to.
Yeah.
But so they're out there, and I was thinking, well, I'm gonna have to catch them. And Colin was like, I want to go with you. And I thought, okay, cool. Well, I couldn't catch them. They're like, I mean, they're super fast in that yard. So what I did was I got like a fishing net that you got when you're like trying to bring a fish in the boat. And I got out there and I swooped them up. It's not a deep net, so they kept trying to fly out. So I'd have to like swoop it back around.
Yeah, I bet that looked cool.
Oh gosh, I mean, it felt cool, but there was a couple of times where Colin freaked out because she just thought, "Oh my god, what are we like? The chicken's getting out." And so, because you got to keep them away from food and water for like 12 to 24 hours
before you eat them.
Well, not necessarily when you go to eat them, but when you go to clean them, if they've been eating, it makes like they're more of a chance for you to cross contaminate your food when you try to clean them.
Jeez.
Just like you've cleaned deer before. It's just like, think about if the deer just wouldn't eat like 48 hours before you killed it. It'd be a whole lot easier to clean.
Yeah.
So, but what's bad about it, and I feel guilty about saying this, but I forgot after I got them in their own cages and moved them over to the side, I forgot that they weren't supposed to have food. And so I got a handful of food and was walking towards them and was like, y'all can't have food. And I threw it out and all the rest of the animals started eating it. And I thought, they're having to watch all these people. Yeah. So that wasn't
Man,
great.
you're learning a lot, about being a farmer.
I am, but I got to get rid of the roosters because they're tearing up the hens.
And you just can't have males there. You're the only male that needs to be there. You and Cope.
Yeah, and
what about those?
And Smoke.
Who's that?
Great Pyrenees.
Okay.
I think that's the only 3 male.
He's black.
He white.
Okay, like White Smoke. Okay.
So we have Sky and Smoke, and they're both white. Okay. But Smoke's kind of got like that patchy face. He's we could have called him Patches, but we called him Smoke.
Yeah, that's a good name.
So, but taking the goats, we took 2 baby goats to the vet when we thought we were going to lose them, and we did lose them, and that was expensive. Kind of vets are the same as doctors. Like when you got to have one, the fees and for us to basically end up putting both of those baby goats down was almost $1,000.
Wow.
Because we got charged for each one of them $150 large animal fee.
Of course.
They were not 3 pounds.
They're not that large. I was about to say.
Well, I asked them about it, and they're like, well, they're like,
they can be that.
They are a goat, so it's based on what they are, not what they weigh. And I was like, well, then I would just put goat instead of large animal fee. Like
that's
maybe
true.
Put on there, we're going to charge you for a goat being put down.
Yeah. If it is a goat, this is the fee.
Right. Yeah. I probably wouldn't call you after hours for a chicken.
Yeah. So that's cool. I didn't know that, but I'm glad to know that. Just one day down the road, I've always wanted to have like a large amount of land that I could do whatever I want to on it, and maybe have like a little goat section, maybe a chicken section. After these conversations with you, I might not have any of those. I might just have.
But the thing
this is where we finger paint. Yeah, this is where.
This is where we practice yo-yos.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is now you should, because now I can be like, don't do this.
Yeah, I'm definitely not getting the males. Like we're just gonna get the female goats. What are the female goats called? Is that a EWE?
I thought you meant. I was like, I'll give you their names, but
you got bucks and you got does.
Well, with goats, you have the same thing. So the males are called bucks. The kids are called kids, and then the females are called either doe or nanny.
Like that. Yeah, I like nanny.
I like to do woodwork. And if you so you can buy shiplap where you like stick it together and it has that space in the middle, but it like sticks together. You can do that, or you can take whatever kind of wood you have, whether it's plywood, any kind of 1x4, 1x6, or 2, like anything you have, and you basically cut it in the widths that you want, and then you just take a router and round off the edges on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you stick it together, like you put your board up, put it in, put the next board, even though they're not stuck together, they look like it looks like shiplap, but you're using, it's way cheaper. Like it's
Mm.
way, you can use any kind of material that you have.
Just round the edges.
Yeah, just take a router, and because when it's rounded, if it's squared off, they fit together like this. But when it's rounded, they kind of fit like your fingers. Like
Yeah.
you got that gap a little bit.
Right. That's
Not
cool.
this gap. I don't know what's going on. Why that one's so far. Why can't I put that together? It's crazy.
Anyway.
So yeah. So also we were talking today, and y'all little daughter had her 4-year-old checkup.
Yeah. I wasn't
And
actually there
help.
for that, but yeah. Sorry. I stayed home with the other daughter. Actually, I think that's a lie. She was at her grandma's. What did I do? I worked. I have a
Okay, so Slade was at home doing nothing.
yeah.
But you brought up a good point, because when you get to those appointments, even if you're not doing anything wrong, the questions almost make you feel like a bad parent. Like if there's something, if they ask you 30 questions and you're like, well, we had to say no to 5 of them. Like, is that bad? Is that good? And I get why they ask them, but there's just so many questions that seem a little bit too in depth.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about a question, but I've noticed this pretty much across the board. If you ask somebody a question, if I was to be asked a question, how about this? If I was to be asked a question and you didn't mean it in any type of way other than you're just looking for the answer, say you ask me if this is my favorite shirt, like, yeah. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, why do you ask me that? Do I wear it all the time? Does he think I wear it too much? Should I wear something else? And that's how these questions are with these doctors, it seems like. Because they see babies every day. These pediatricians, it's what they do, it's what they know, it's what they study. So, is she potty trained? Is she going to preschool? Is she saying 200 words or whatever that milestone is?
Well, and I'm not even prepared for some of that, because I think the number is really like 100 at one of them, and I'm thinking, I mean, I don't know, like
Yeah.
100 words.
And then you can't put her on the spot and be like, Aria, say all of them now.
Yeah,
Dog, cat, red, blue. Like, what are we doing? No, we can't do this.
yeah,
We didn't know this was going to be a test presentation.
yeah. You didn't even let us study.
Yeah. So I don't like those milestones. I get why. I don't like comparing my child to normal. I just don't like it. And I don't like saying, doctors don't say this. You'll hear other people say it, like, what's wrong with her, or what's wrong with you? Or if I was to ask you how your day is and you say you're upset, like, what's wrong? It's just the way that we talk, but I wish we could come up with some other way of saying it, because I don't want anybody to think something's wrong with my kid, like for any reason, whether she's got a runny nose or she's got having a bad day and she's emotional, or she's not as far along as what you think a 4-year-old needs to be, or whatever, any type of age. Man, for some reason, it really bothers me. Like, why are you comparing why we got to compare these milestones to what normal is? Because what is
Yeah.
normal? Like, normal? Ain't nobody normal, you know?
Well, it reminds me of a comedian once said, he said, "Yeah, I've been 6 months sober," and the guest or the host was like, "Oh, that's awesome, that's congratulations." And he said, "One thing I realized is," and I'm just bringing this up to talk about like narratives of how people think, but he said America's the only place that you can admit or say that you have given up a vice. It only happens with alcohol, but it was like you give up alcohol and people don't go, "Congratulations, that's amazing." They go, "Why, did you have a problem?" Like,
Yeah,
or why, what's going on? But he's like, if you tell somebody, "Yeah, I haven't done cocaine in 5 years," they're like, "That's incredible, great job." But if you're like, "Hey, I'm going to stop drinking for a couple of months," they're like, "Why? Like, what's wrong? Like, are you okay?" And so it's funny that you say that, because I think about that a lot with drinking.
hmm
If you're like, "Oh, I'm going to be done drinking," and people are like, "Why?"
and
It's like, well, it's
that's
just bad for you, but it's just become such a normal thing in culture that people, if you said you're going to stop doing heroin, not a single person is going to say
right.
why.
Yeah,
They're going to be like, "Oh, okay, that's really good. You should have never been doing that." But it's
yeah,
honestly the same with alcohol.
man. It's crazy you said that, because I quit drinking December 27th, 2018. And I don't know why it was that date. I didn't have a reason for it. It was something that I wanted to do for a long time, and I just didn't have the will to do it. I didn't want to do it. I just felt like I needed to do it. It's kind of like that. Man, you go to school. Well, I don't know how everybody else does. I didn't really drink a lot in high school, but when I went to college, I did. I drank a lot in college. I learned how to drink more, and it kind of just stayed with me, and it turned into a social setting, and then from a social setting, almost like a hobby, to almost a habit. Well, for sure a habit, and then I just did it daily, and I didn't think I was any different than anybody beside me, because I wasn't. I know what everybody else did, so I didn't have any problems with it from that point of view. The older I got, I just had this inside, I don't know what it was. I can't even tell you. Maybe it was the Holy Spirit. I don't know. Maybe it was conviction or guilt or shame or something. But I just need to chill out on this, and I didn't want to. I also smoked cigarettes at the exact same time, so I knew I needed to quit that because of the health reasons But I knew if I continued drinking, I was going to continue smoking. I couldn't give up one without the other. Really, it was a package deal. And one day, December 27th, don't know why, I never picked up another one. Quit drinking.
So you just went 5 year
Yeah,
anniversary.
yeah. It was like sometimes I Google it. I used to keep up with a day, like every single day, and I've had a drink here and there. But as far like I didn't even have a first drink until probably maybe last year. So I went like at one time I was keeping up with like 1,000 days, or 1,200 days, or 13 on
Yeah.
those incremental levels of it. And then at first I told people about it, but eventually it kind of turned into one to make your point. Tell somebody you quit drinking, especially if you're around other people that do drink that don't know you. Well, I would tell people that I like golfing or going out to a deer camp or anything with a group of guys. Really, nah, I don't drink. I did drink, but I'm not drinking. No, you got to. It's almost like you got to lead with that part. Like if you can't just say I don't drink
If
because
you say
everybody
you
wants
don't
to know.
drink, it's like, oh, well, that's crazy. But if you go used to and I don't anymore, then they're like, oh, what'd you do? Did you get DUIs? Were you crazy? Did you get,
Yeah, are you in AA? And some people, sometimes I have seen that, like if I told you I wasn't going to drink or I quit drinking, some people, it almost makes them uncomfortable. Like then they got to justify why they drink and how much they drink and how little they drink and when they drink and what they drink. And, I'm like, I didn't say none of that. Like, I'm just saying, I'm going to set this one out. You do what you want, you know?
yeah. I can't stand when people quit drinking but still do other things
Hmm.
and justify that one of them's better than the other, which I'm not saying that physically they may not be, but I think anytime that you're using a different vice, whether it's marijuana, pills, whatever it is, even if it's not alcohol, even if it's better than alcohol, it's not like you're holier than thou. And it's just, I hate the narrative of like, well, I don't drink because it's just poison in your body. And I'm like, I mean, you're right. You're 100% right. But you're also depending on something else.
Yeah, so is Red Bull.
You're right. So is Red Bull, so is processed foods in general. Well, congratulations, dude. That's awesome. I know you had been quit drinking for a while. I had no idea it was 5 years.
I did
Which is,
have a drink on New Year's Eve night because I was thinking, you know what? 2024 kind of sucked. And kind of going into the new year, I mean, there was good parts about it, but there was some lows. It seemed like 2024 was just hard. Maybe it's just the night. I don't know, but this is how out of the loop I was because used to I would go to the gas station or go to the liquor store and I knew exactly what I wanted and I drank Busch Light. And this time I went to Walgreens because I had to be there for something anyways. I had to get something. I don't remember why I was at the store, but I went to Walgreens and I was like, you know what? There's some champagne. I'm gonna get some champagne. Casey doesn't drink either, but I guess what do you really say in that sense? Because we don't drink, but we will have a drink. Very, very, very seldom. Not, and it doesn't happen hardly ever. But I feel like if I say I don't drink and then you saw me drink, you'd be like, "What a liar," you know. But at the same time, we don't do it often. But for New Year's Eve, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get you some
that's just it.
champagne.
That sucks because you have to make it clear,
Yeah,
which you shouldn't have to.
right.
It doesn't even matter, and that's
It
that's
don't.
kind of how completely different subject, but that's how we felt when we had a miscarriage and people were asking us about when are we having kids, or why
Mm-hmm.
are, are we better hurry up, or things like that. And I got to thinking to myself, like, I don't want to explain to you that we had a miscarriage. It's none of your business. But at the same time, if you say, why aren't you, I don't want you thinking, well, why aren't you trying? Or why aren't you doing this? So I felt like I need to say, well, we just had a miscarriage,
Yeah.
but now that person feels awful. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. So
It's kind of
it's
like,
just crazy that you got to give people explanations like what you're saying. Because if somebody goes, hey, Slade, 5 years, that's awesome. And you're like, well, it hasn't really been 5 years. And they're like, okay, well, so you still drink? And you're like, no, like
yeah,
I've had
right.
maybe 3 drinks in 5 years.
Yeah. If I have to get technical, yes, I had a 25 ounce of Bush Heavy. There is a difference. I didn't know it was Bush Heavy. I thought I was buying Bush Light. That's how out of the loop I was, because the cans, they look the same. Used to, the Bush Heavy had a copper top. Maybe they still do, but this Walgreens, it wasn't that way. So I bought the Bush Heavy, and I was mad at myself. I was like, man, I ain't drank in years. And the one time that I allowed myself to drink just for New Year's, I buy the wrong beer that I ain't even trying to drink. I never even liked that
Well,
beer.
and I'm going to say this, being that you were at a Walgreens, I'm not being stereotypical, but I think Bud Heavy, Bush Heavy, it's a different crowd. I don't
Yeah,
know if a lot of people who drink that are getting that at
yeah,
Walgreens. So I think you might have gotten it might have been a pretty old can.
it may have been. I did drink it, and it wasn't that bad. I haven't drank in so long that Bush Heavy was good, you know?
Because you were like, well, and after a while, beer's kind of like, you got to get kind of back into it.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting a 30 pack of this tomorrow. It was nothing like that. It was
You're
like,
like,
man,
cool, another
savor the
year.
flavor. It's kind of like if you ever been broke and you hit the absolute bottom of the barrel and then you went negative in your bank account. Eventually, once you get yourself out of that hole, you start appreciating the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was. That's where I am now. I drank heavily Jack Daniels whenever I was there towards the end. I hardly ever drank beer. I was drinking whiskey all the time. Bourbon, whiskey, that's the only thing I hadn't touched. So, technically speaking, I haven't had whiskey since December 26, 2018, if that means anything.
It does. 5 years whiskey free.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome, dude.
that's a vice I don't really want to welcome back.
Yeah.
Whiskey.
Well, and that's the thing is, I've got a really good friend of mine who just drinks beer. Like that's all he'll ever drink. And he said, man, I just with the other stuff, I can't. It makes me feel bad. I can't really. I get to a certain point, and I can't control. I get out of myself at that point. And so I've literally we've been friends for probably 4 years, 5 years now, and I've never seen him drink anything but
Hmm.
beer. Like I've never
Yeah.
seen him drink. And so, but he's also again, it was funny. He felt like he needed to say, I'm like, oh, let's, do a shot or let's get a mixed drink. And he's like, no, just give me a Michelob Ultra. Or no, just get me a.
Right.
So,
And
but it's funny when you go ahead.
there is a freedom that comes with it too, because knowing that I don't have to go home, like knowing I can go home after work or go anywhere I want. If I'm by myself, there's nobody around me that I'm going to let down, disappoint, confuse. It's just me. But knowing that I can be in that spot and I ain't gotta drink, I don't have to do that. It's like a mental thing that I had to get over. And it's almost like I wanted to prove to myself that I could stop. Everybody can talk about, yeah, I'll stop one day, or I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not addicted. I ain't got to have it as their point of drinking. Like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're saying that, but you ain't doing that.
Well, for me, if I just quit hanging out in groups, Casey and I never, and I'm saying, when I say rarely, we maybe twice a year at dinner at our house, we'll have a drink. And it looks like we got a liquor store in our house in there, and some of them bottles are so old they have an inch thick of dust on it. We just don't.
Yeah,
We're not going to come home and be like, "Oh, for dinner, let's have a mixed drink," or "I'm going to have a beer," because we used to have the mindset, which is almost worse. But we used to have a mindset of, "Why would I have one? Like, if I'm going to drink to get
yeah,
drunk. Why would I
right,
just drink for fun?"
yeah.
Which is bad. It's not a good outlook, but it
That's
also
I
kept
lived
us
there
from
forever.
really. Well, we never really, but we're on the opposite side of that in terms of we don't want to drink at all then, because it's like if we're not going to drink, if we're just going to have a beer at dinner, like we don't enjoy the taste of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
like in a sense of I want it every night or I need it every night or oh I'm gonna have one because I just no I'm not gonna sit there and have a glass of wine or have a glass of whiskey like a mixed drink. But then if we get to hanging out with people and it's like we're at a ball game or a tailgate or we're watching
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, it's like oh, I'll have a couple beers just because it's I don't need to get trashed, right?
Right.
And so we've
Social.
moved out from that aspect, but I'm also to the point of where it's just like, man, like this past week after New Year's, we had so many people at our house, and then the next day, I just felt miserable, and I thought it's just not even worth it. And it's now it'll be another week or two before I drink again. It's just not something that I want to do, and when I do, I'm like,
Right. And the crazy part about it is that 25-ounce Bush Heavy. Maybe it was just the flavor of whatever I had, but the next day I woke up, it wasn't a hangover. I wouldn't say that. But it was enough to be like I had a headache and I had to take some Tylenol. I was like, man, the only thing different that I did was I had an equivalent of 3 beers. And I don't feel bad. I can still function. It ain't like one of those I gotta hole up in the bed and can't do nothing because I feel like I have the flu. Nothing like that at all. But it was a noticeable difference that I don't miss at all. There's
yeah,
nothing appealing about it. I'm like, that was cool. It was New Year's Eve. Blah blah blah. Who cares? I probably won't do it this time. You know,
yeah,
I ain't gotta have it again.
that's so I wanted to start. I want to do the carnivore diet, not as like a lifestyle. It's not something I want to do forever, but just from basically going back to where you're just eating meats, you get your body back to a baseline essentially of this is where I'm going to start, and then you can start adding once you do it for a month or do it for 60 days, then you can start adding other food back in
Hmm.
to see because I had a guy tell me one time, and it was very smart. Is if you get back to a bland diet, so something that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, you're just a bland diet, and then you start adding stuff back in it. Things that you love may
Hmm.
make you feel the worst.
Mm.
Like he even said he was like, man, I love peanut butter. He
Mm.
said, but
I love.
he was like, he ate just meat, fruits, and vegetables for like 2 months. That's all he ate. He was very strict on it and just had water. He said added milk back in. I added a little bit of dairy. He was like, and then when I added a peanut butter, he said, I felt awful. He said, I felt like kind of skin got worse. He said, I felt more bloated and just
Man.
disgusting. He said, he was like, but it was something that most people aren't going, yeah, peanut butter is really, really bad for you. Or, not that people think it's good for you, but he said, I wouldn't have noticed it had I not taken everything out and just added it back in. So he's like, I don't eat peanut butter because it just makes me feel bad. And so I'd love to do that with a carnivore diet because you just eat meat, fish, eggs. It's a higher salt, fat diet, but you also don't have any of the processed foods. And just with people with eczema and skin diseases and
Hmm.
autoimmune and weight loss, and it's just there's a lot of positives to it. And so I would love to do it just for a month or two, just to kind of go, this is what if it works and just be like this
Yeah.
is what good feels like because sometimes I
Yeah.
think you get used to the nicks and the crannies and the
Hmm.
irks of getting older and you
Yeah.
just think that's the new norm and you forget like on those days like I know whenever I have a hangover I'm like oh I'm good for drinking for a month
Hmm.
but whenever it's like it's the same with food like I don't think it's been so long since you didn't have a lot of anti or inflammation in your body that you just kind of get used to like oh my knee hurts because I've heard a
Hmm.
lot of people in the carnivore diet with joint pain hips knees elbows that they've dealt with for a long time once they stopped eating processed foods it went away.
Interesting. Well, I know it's got to help. Like even with me, I have kidney stones often, like weekly often, monthly often. And if I don't drink enough water or if I eat bad food, I get them more often. And I don't know, I have gotten them not tested. What's the right word? I've given some of these stones to whoever, the doctor, and they'll come back and they say it's got high in calcium oxalates. And
Which is like you do you drink a lot of milk.
I don't. I couldn't figure out what it was, and still yet I don't have it proven yet. But he told me that like stay away from like the darker drinks because they're high in oxalates, like Dr. Pepper or Coke, Pepsi, sweet tea, any tea. And that's really all I can think of at the moment. But I don't, which is fine because I don't really drink those anyways. I like Dr. Pepper. Oh, coffee. Coffee's a big one. If I have any coffee, this is the craziest part. If I have coffee, like 1 cup of coffee or one Dr. Pepper, that week I'll pass the kidney stone. It's crazy.
I've never heard of somebody having kidney stones that often.
Man, I got them. Like, whenever I say this might get people concerned about me because I don't know. It's just, I think it's something I've always had. I just didn't know it. And I didn't notice it until I stopped drinking. Like, I don't think that I ever passed a kidney stone knowingly until I stopped drinking. I don't know why, other than drinking makes you use the bathroom often, and maybe that was keeping all things flowing, and I don't know for sure. Because once I stopped drinking, I started drinking like energy drinks, Dr. Pepper, coffee, everything, anything and everything. At first, probably problematically,
Yeah,
because I wasn't drinking alcohol.
just alter. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands type of situation. Like, what groceries do I get anymore? I have all this free time on my hands. I didn't know how to handle it at first, but I wasn't replacing any of that with water. And that's when I started first noticing this. So that would have been the beginning of 2019 up until now. Coffee really got me. And I would have, the first time I went to a urologist, they said I had like 25 kidney stones at one time.
good
Yeah.
gosh.
And then I had
And you didn't feel it? Like you didn't know it?
I didn't know it. And maybe I kind of like that inflammation topic you just said. Maybe I do know it, but it's something I've always had, so I don't know what normal is or
As
what
long as it's not
quote
like
unquote healthy is.
a
Yeah.
drastic one, you just don't
Yeah, and
notice it.
I've had the ones, I've passed the ones that you can feel, and it will absolutely put you down. The miserable type of pain, uncomfortable. There's nothing. Tylenol doesn't touch it. Pain medicine doesn't touch it. There's just, once it passes, it's gone. The pain is gone immediately. But it sucks, man. There's nothing. I don't know another pain that is like it. So uncomfortable. There's just no cure, but or no relief for it. I had some type of surgery, like a procedure, and had something to do with like I went in and with a laser, and all I can think of like a Mario game or like a Nintendo game. There's choo 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 just shooting all the kidney stones. And I bet it was kind of fun for the dude on this laser end, but
What was that game? What was the game that we used to play on like Pac-Man, like the arcade game
yeah,
where oh my gosh, because when we were kids, like playing it, I can't think of it, but that's what I imagine. I imagine just
yeah,
blowing up.
and they passed. They broke them up. I still had to pass them. That was disturbing, but I got through that, and then I went back like 6 weeks or 6 months, a time later, and I had 27 again. And at this point, that procedure it cost so much money. I'm like, man, if they're just going to keep coming back and I don't even know it, I'm just going to carry these things, freak out.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
freak out whenever they come out, but I hadn't experienced enough to think this is a big problem. I got to get this checked. Now, it sounds like a big problem when I tell the story. I had 25 and then 27, and I bet I passed 100, since then. It's from 19 to now. And to the point that I have given some to the doctor. It ain't like I'm just going in, here's one. I'm like, here's a Ziploc bag. Here you go, bud. You just do what you want with it.
Gosh.
And I don't know, like, I'm alive and well. I feel fine. No, I'm not. Right now, I'm not in pain, but I bet you if somebody was to take any type of scanner and then check out the kidneys, they'd be like, beep, 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 beep. Ding, ding, we got one. Oh, you don't have one, you got 35. It's just part of my life.
Jeez, that's insane and definitely not normal
It's not normal.
at all.
If I was going to the doctor and they're like, these are the milestones. Right now, you're 40 years old. At this point, you should have 0 kidney stones and you have 37. This is not normal. I'd be like,
And you don't get any kind of prize for that. I mean, that's
no,
not a good. Yeah.
and they'd be like, what are you doing? What are you eating? Like, what are you eating? Why don't you get off my kidneys?
Yeah, literally get off my back.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I'm literally, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I'm passing kidney stones daily.
Yeah,
Please leave me alone.
I'm almost to the point that I'm starting to believe that kidney stones are caused by stress. I have no way of proving that. you know. But it seems like some of the hardest.
Everything is caused by stress.
Yeah, I mean, I just do because the spans of time that I'm happy-go-lucky, like right now, I mean, things are going on. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on outside the door and in life. It's just troublesome and hard to get through, but I'm okay in this moment. You know, I have peace about my life right now, but if I go through a really problematic phase that I'm like, I can't get out of this, you know, I feel like a spiraling downhill cycle.
Yeah.
Most likely I'm going to give a kidney stone in that time.
I feel like, too, it's not only the stress, but I bet during those times you drink less water. I noticed that when I'm more anxious or mind is occupied by things,
Mm-hmm.
I do more unhealthy things, just like not drinking a lot of water. Like the day after New Year's, I'm walking around with a gallon jug with electrolytes in it. Like, not joking, gallon jug of water with electrolytes. Go over to Whit and Megan's, and they're both laughing their butts off. Like, what are you doing drinking that? And I'm like, I will not go to sleep tonight until this jug's gone. My body needs a gallon of water every day, at least.
Yeah.
Most people's do, but I don't get that much. I get a lot, but there's some days where, especially if I'm, you know, things are going on, I notice that's when it's like there's the energy drink or coffee, which I have I have coffee every morning, but then after that it's like, you know, it's a Coke instead of a water for lunch, or at dinner I'm drinking even if it's sugar free or diet or whatever, I'm drinking a Coke instead of water, and then I look up and it's bedtime and I've drank one glass of water. And I've noticed that as you multiply those days into weeks where you're doing that, that's when like my back's hurting more than normal, or my hips really are hurting. Feel like I need to go to the chiropractor, when really
and those don't lie.
What if they don't? My hips don't lie. And what if they're, you know, if I drank water for a week, like I was drinking Cokes or coffee or just anything that's not water, what if I drank that for a week? And then how's them legs feeling? How's the hips feel? How's the back and head and how you're thinking and just things like that. So I think a lot of it's tied to stress with just everything, man. With just but it affects people differently. And so, like for you, yeah, it may be kidney stones. I've never heard of a person having them as much as you, and I've never heard of somebody having 27.
Yeah. Yeah.
After having 25 of them blasted.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah. I wanted to be known for something in any phase of my life. That never crossed my mind. He had the most kidney stones. Yeah. No, nobody ever heard of that.
I'm going to start calling you Kidney or Stone. Which would you rather?
Neither one really sound awesome. I know a dude named Stone. I just barely know this dude, but still, if you call me Stone, I think of that all the time, and then like, there's already a Stone. But Kidney's like, I don't feel good about that.
Yeah, it's weird. What a KS?
KS, nah. So maybe just call me Slade.
I mean, Kid's kind of funny.
Kid is funny, but it's also kind of like, I don't want to be a goat, you know?
But you're also the only one that would get the reference.
That's true.
I'll be like, what's up, Kid? And everybody else will be like, oh, he's older than you. Why you call him Kid? Is that why it's funny? I'm like, yeah, we're hilarious.
Yeah, we are funny. We are.
Yeah, well, then let's keep the funny rolling. Do you have a dad joke?
Shoo-wee, I forgot about that. No, I don't. Let me think. You go first.
Okay. What is a bird's favorite construction equipment?
I'm not sure.
Crane.
Oh my God, man!
You can just never go wrong.
I mean,
dad joke.
I know. Hey, this ain't a joke, but this might be something we could use. Last night I was on Instagram and I was just going through all of the funny things. You know, that pasta. You know, when they count to 3 and they got the water in their mouth and they hit each other with the pasta. Those are hilarious. But, well, not pasta, tortilla.
Tortilla. I was like, I haven't seen that. Heck yeah. Spaghetti. Yeah. Okay, I like it.
But then I came across this other one, and it was a couple. And the wife said, all right, I'm going to make a face. And then you got to come up with the sound, dude. Dude, I laughed so hard at those things for so long. That's the only thing I can come up with. Okay. I'll make a face. And then you make a sound. But I'll show you the face first.
Yep.
Oh, and then I'm going to count to 3, and then I'll make the face, you make it. Like,
okay.
1, 2, 3. Let me do another one because that's funny. Let's just do one more. I mean, this is gonna be a good one, I think.
Well, I'm gonna
No,
get
you
to
do
do
the
one
face.
as well.
You do,
Yeah,
do
I'm
the
gonna. All right, let me think of the
All right.
face. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you first.
Okay.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Hee haw, hee haw, hee haw, hee haw, hee haw.
Jeez, good
We
stuff, man. Appreciate you being back on, dude. We need to make it more regular. Congratulations on the sobriety and on not having that in your life. What about cigarettes? Are you still? You never really
No
touched on that.
cigarettes.
You no
I hadn't
cigarettes.
had a
Good,
cigarette
man.
since then. So of all of the things that I've had here and there, I hadn't had a cigarette. That's the craziest part to me because I've heard that cigarettes are harder to stop doing than just about any other drug that exists. I stopped cold turkey.
Well, this March will be 6 or 7 years for me on dipping.
Nice.
Not the dipping
Yeah,
like
that
behind
means
your head.
nicotine.
Yeah. No, I'm saying not the dipping behind you.
Oh yeah.
Not
Got
that.
you.
Like
Yeah.
different dipping. But yeah, I told my mom at that point, Dad had gotten sick, and I was like, man, you know what?
You
If
know
I've
what?
got the same genes as you, I'm not going to I was like, I'm not gonna give it any I'm gonna try my best not to give it any other avenues to form.
We didn't even talk about that. We didn't even talk about our dads.
Dude. But that's the thing. Now we can talk. Now we got a whole nother episode that we can talk about. Thanks everybody for being here. Slade, appreciate you for being here, buddy. We'll have you on again, man. This episode's going to come out. Everybody, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Hope everyone had safe holidays. Getting ready back to work and the swing of things. Kids going back to school. Everybody be safe. We love you. Shut the dang door.